Things are quiet now. The hustle and bustle of the day are over. You can turn your attention to the things of the day that need your undivided attention. This is Dan Perkins, and this is Dan After Dark. In addition to the Black and White Network, I appear on several other networks as guest host or contributors, and this show will bring you some of those appearances. So let's slow down, focus on the important issues. If you go to the homepage, blacksandwhites.us, you can hear my shows on this network. So sit back, take a sip of your favorite beverage, and enjoy the show. I'm Dan Perkins. Just reported that the rate of inflation for the last 12 months was 8.5%. Close to a 40-year high. This is Dan Perkins with Blacks and Whites. Prices continue to rise on other commodities besides oil. I ask you, what are you going to do to protect your money and your investment? It's time for you to take a serious look at gold for your portfolio. If you've had enough empty promises and misleading statements by the Biden government, isn't it time for you to take control of your money and your future? Go to blacksandwhites.us and on the home page, click the bar of gold to be taken directly to IRA and Advisors Metals to ask the question, is gold right for me? This is Dan Perkins.
Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and we are always delighted when we're able to make the connection with our good friend Dan Perkins. He's a political commentator, author of 4 novels. He has a podcast, What's on My Mind. He has other broadcasts, Blacks and Whites. You can go to blacksandwhites.us. Actually, millions listening to that program. DanPerkins.guru is his website, and he also has a great ministry called Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us, where he helps vets in recovery. And that's Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us. Dan, good to see you, friend. I think, you know what? I come to the conclusion that you're actually more busy than I am.
Well, I was just about to tell you I've got a new show, and you were the first guest, even though you didn't know it.
Oh, really?
Yep, I started a new show 3 weeks ago called Dan After Dark. Comes on at early morning hours, and I'm taking selections from shows that I've been on away from my network and bringing those shows to my audience through replaying the appearance. And you were the first one that I did.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're the man. You're the man. Well, a lot to talk to you about. Short time. Let's get into it a little bit. Of course, this morning, UK has a king. Passing Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I think it's got the whole world on tilt. One of the comments that I saw this morning is the people in the UK and around the world, the Commonwealth, are beginning to thaw out that she really is gone. And we do have a king. What's your take?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting that we're still dealing with maybe the 17th century. We have a king now. We had a queen for 70-some years. And she was a great personality, great spokesperson for the British Empire, but had no real authority or power to do anything in terms of legislation or changing the rules or the laws in Great Britain or foreign nations. But she was a titular head of the government and the church, and so she was a strong figure, but, you know, more ceremonial than functional, I think. And King Charles III will be the same way. He will continue the tradition of being the titular head of the Church of England, and he will do all the things that monarchs do, but he won't have an impact on policy or legislation coming out of Parliament.
The Commonwealth grew under her reign. It could shrink under his reign. Already 2 to 3 of the Commonwealth countries are thinking about becoming independent. You think that'll happen?
Yeah, I think there'll be a downsizing of the empire as people in other parts of the empire like the idea of being independent and free. As other parts of the empire have done over her reign. And I think it's just a natural evolution. As people become more successful, more independent, they want to be independent of a sovereign. So, yeah, I expect to see the empire to shrink.
All right, one other question there before I move on, and that is great concern as to whether or not King Charles III actually will set aside his political agenda and become king. Others have said he's been in training to become king all of his life, but he's also been very vocal about some of his political stance. Where do you think that'll end up?
I think that if he tries to bring to the throne his political beliefs, it will create chaos in the country. I think he's smart enough to figure out that he now is the monarch for the empire, and he has certain responsibilities and things that he has to do, and he shouldn't and can't do. He will let those pass to perhaps other members of the royal family to take over.
Okay. All right, let's switch gears. We now know that there's something in law called a special master. It's been hidden in the law books all these years. And apparently 4 names have been submitted, and then yet there's an appeal from the DOJ to stop a special master. Can you give us an update where the mess is and what a special master will do if one is appointed?
Well, let me say that the Attorney General had no choice. He had to appeal the appointment of the special master, and I'll tell you why. As stuff has been leaked out as to the types of things that the FBI took from the mansion that were unrelated to espionage or secret or classified documents, pieces of clothing, pardons, all those things, the Attorney General does not want that list to be scrutinized by an independent third party who may return the vast majority of them back to Trump as inappropriately taken. The FBI doesn't want to get embarrassed again as long as they can postpone it. And what Merrick Garland needs to do is to postpone anything until after the midterm elections. So he had no choice but to appeal it to try and stop it in its tracks, at least through the midterm. What the special master will be charged, I believe, to do is that he will be brought to him all of the documents that the Justice Department took out of Mar-a-Lago and given to him in a secure facility, and he will go through them one by one and make a decision whether it was appropriate to confiscate it or not. If it was appropriate, he would save it and give it to the Justice Department. If it's not appropriate, he will take it and return it to Trump. Keep in mind, Perry, that the FBI and the Justice Department are about as popular as a dead rat in your kitchen. They're not trusted very well, and rightfully so. When we see what they did to get Trump out of office and the things that the FBI did illegally, so there's not great confidence. And in fact, the judge who issued the request in favor of the special master hinted between the lines that she herself didn't trust the objectivity of the Justice Department to decide what should go and what should stay. So it's a tough situation, and his job is to play defense and to try and stop anything to being returned.
So if a special master is appointed, allowed to be appointed, then it does tell us that a general warrant doesn't allow for everything, right?
Yes, that's correct. And so that's part of the problem that Merrick Garland has is that the team that went in and tore apart Mar-a-Lago to see what they could find, and the staged photograph. She even talked about the staged photograph of all the documents on the carpet because the photograph was implying that that's how he protected the documents, when in fact it was staged by FBI agents to appear that was what was going on, that they were just laying around unprotected, which wasn't true. So I think it's a very difficult situation, and it's almost kind of like Hunter Biden. The Democrats do not want it in the pre-election, and they don't want it during the election. They don't want this special master. But I believe the court in appeal will support the decision of the lower court judge of the special master, and I believe that Garland will attempt to try and take it all the way to the Supreme Court. But your listeners need to be aware of one. You talked about quirks in the law.
That is?
They have to appeal to the court for consideration. It doesn't automatically go to the Supreme Court. So you have to get a majority of the judges to agree to hear the case. If they don't get a majority of the judges to agree to hear the case, then it will never reach the Supreme Court.
Wow. In the meantime, Dan, I can't help but think that given the time they have raided Mar-a-Lago to where they are today, that the Justice Department has read everything at least 2 or 3 times.
Oh yeah, this independent review committee by the Justice Department, I don't think so. They're not being objective. They have a mission, and they're trying to find whatever they can, whether it's to help the House committee on the quote revolution, or the state prosecutors. They're trying to find anything they can that will be helpful to them, and they're just going to deal with what they have, but they're going to fight like hell to keep the courts from taking away their power.
In the meantime, if the special master appointment continues to get delayed, does that delay an indictment?
Absolutely, because what has happened is that the judge has basically frozen the documents. She's put out an order that says they cannot use it for any prosecution until the special master reviews it and comments on it. So yes, it's on hold because, well, it should be on hold because the judge has said you can't do anything, but there's nobody policing the FBI, the Justice Department, to see if they're not already using it to try and come up with something. So that's where the trust issue of the Justice Department and the FBI are coming into play, and it's a big issue.
All right, so the DOJ could be forfeiting or losing their opportunity to have an indictment before the midterm, and that leaves the pressure on January 6th committee to come up with a recommendation for an indictment, right?
Yep. And the question is, what are they going to indict him on?
Getting out of
If
bed.
if the court says that nothing that was taken from Mar-a-Lago can be used in the prosecution of a crime until the special master decision has been made, they have nothing to go on it unless they're going to ignore the decision of the court, which they could do and have done already, and say, well, we don't care what the court says, we're going to do it anyway. And so that's the arrogance of the Biden administration and the Justice Department, and they could very easily do that.
What's the Dan Perkins prediction?
The prediction is that I think, Perry, that it probably will be petitioned to go to the Supreme Court, but given the nature of the way they did it, the Supreme Court, if the lower court sustains the judge through the appeal process, and now the Supreme Court is being asked to overturn the lower court judge, given the relationship between the Biden administration and the court, my guess is that the court will deny and not hear the case.
Therefore, the DOJ could really be embarrassed that if a lot of things that don't pertain to anything in the way of an indictment is returned to the former president, and he holds them up in front of the camera and said, look what they did. They went into my son's bedroom and took
my wife's closet.
And my wife's closet, and they took these articles. I mean, could they survive this embarrassment?
No. That's what Garland is in my opinion, this whole thing was handled poorly by the Justice Department. There was no reason to have a raid. They were there in June. They were asked to put another lock on the place where the documents were stored. They complied with that. So it really is a situation where the longer it goes, the longer they continue to protest, the more stuff is leaked about what was there, the more damage it does to the Justice Department. and the American people continued to lose confidence not only in the Justice Department but Merrick Garland. If what I think is going to happen, I think you will see. This is one of my predictions. You may well see the resignation of the Attorney General.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, does Trump survive this?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, the people will look at it, and you're right. The minute the special master has the ability, and I don't care whether it's a piece of toilet paper, they're going to do exactly what you said. They're going to say, look, the government decided they needed to have this for whatever purposes, and the independent special master looked at it and said, no, this goes back to Trump. Anything, any number of documents that goes back to Donald Trump is deadly for the Justice Department.
Wow. All right, let me take a quick break. Always a delight to have with us Dan Perkins. DanPerkins.guru is his personal website. One of his podcasts is What's on My Mind podcast. Blackandwhites.us is a program. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us is his ministry. And Dan After Dark, who knows what that is? We'll find out when we come back.
Why do Democrats hate Americans so much? When Hillary was running for president, she said half of Donald Trump's supporters were, quote, a basket of deplorables. Recently, Joe Biden, at a speech in Philadelphia, told America that half of us are semi-fascist terrorists. Under the First Amendment of the Constitution, we have the right to express our opinions, and if we disagree with the left, they don't have the right to take away our freedom of speech. Clearly, the statement by Hillary and Biden are designed to silence the conservatives in America. Many Americans find it easier to go along with the left and give up their right to disagree. What would America look like today if our founding fathers would have given in to the king and not fought for their freedom? Today we must fight to take America back. Join the new generation of patriots who believe in the Constitution. Join the new revolution in America. Fire your shot for freedom by voting on November the 8th. Help all Americans take back our country.
Okay, welcome back. Always great to have with us Dan Perkins, and check out What's on My Mind podcast. And he has danperkins.guru as his website. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us is a ministry that he has to veterans. Black and Whites broadcast.us. And Dan After Dark. Okay, Dan, how do you get Dan After Dark?
You just go to blackandwhite.us, and on the show drop-down menu, just go to Dan After Dark.
Okay, cool. All right, check it out.
Now, I just want to give you an update.
Yeah.
As of last Thursday, both Sad Eyes and the Lincoln books were published and on Amazon. But the publisher has a special deal. If you go to hollismedia.net, you can buy a bundle of the Sad Eyes and Lincoln. Lincoln is a 2-volume set, so you get 3 books, and you get to pay for it over time with no interest. So you can set yourself up for a long winter's read by those 2 books. But hollismedia.net.
Hollismedia.net. Great.
Yes, sir. And I got some. There'll be some coming to you too.
You're the man. All right. Before I leave all the mess with Mar-a-Lago, I just want to ask kind of a little bit of a rhetorical question. Is it possible that the DOJ, with their arrogance and fumbling, may have checkmated themselves and pulled out from underneath the January 6th committee any legal opportunity for an indictment?
Yes, because as I said in the earlier segment, the court has ruled that none of the evidence that was taken from Mar-a-Lago can be used in any other investigation until the decision on the special master has been done and he or she has had an opportunity to make their report. So it's very possible that that we'd be lucky to get through some of the court process before the end of the year, knowing that there's going to be a change in the House and the Senate. That committee may dissolve itself after January 4th, excuse me.
Okay. Do you think there is still a red wave coming?
Absolutely, I do. I think that the media has tried, the mainstream media has tried as much as they can to communicate to the American people that there is a change in the tide. And I don't see it. I don't see. I'm going to give you an example. On our network, we have a show called Moms Across America. 3 moms who were not professionals in radio, but wanted to get together and have a conversation about what was going on in the country. And when we first started, their first show dealt with critical race theory and how they reacted to it as moms. And they've done very, very well. We just finished a 3-episode series on the proposed changes of Title IX that would, in essence, take a number of freedoms and rights away from women. I saw an article this morning. Today is the closing day for comment. They got 186,000 comments, mostly negative, overwhelming the system, the congressional record system, to collect all these, and they have a responsibility. They're supposed to look at them and respond to all 186,000. There are still issues out there, and Perry, there are a lot of people who think that because the moms and dads went to school board meetings, even though they were called terrorists, that they brought about real change. The public school system in the United States is huge. Hundreds of thousands and millions of children are being educated. And you still see almost every day stories of principals and teachers who are ignoring the laws and the rules and doing whatever they want to do in the classroom, regardless of whether they talk to the parents. So that battle is far from over. And the American women and men, but women, are engaged in their children's education. And I really think that the momentum, I mean, how the mainstream media could say, and I want to be kind here, Perry, how the mainstream media could say that Dr. Oz running against a guy who had a heart attack, who can't campaign, is behind. We don't even know whether the guy's going to survive the campaign or even make it in, if he wins, make it into the Senate. So, and Georgia is a problem for the mainstream media because the 2 candidates for Senate are black. So which one are they going to support? The Democrat only? But it looks like Herschel's momentum has started to change positively. I saw a poll over the weekend that he was dead even. And I'm seeing as we get through the Labor Day weekend and we are 9 weeks from the election, more and more people are still looking at what's going on. And you got 84% of Americans, including Democrats, who say the country's headed in the wrong direction. How do you see that's going to change the red tide momentum? So I fully expect to win the House big time and also to take control of the Senate.
Mitch McConnell's thrown in the towel. He won't campaign. He won't do anything. You kind of go, what is this all about?
Well, not to diminish Mitch McConnell, the president's only endorsed 3 candidates in the entire country. So something's wrong out there that other candidates don't want his endorsement. So he's not a strong fella either. So McConnell's hopefully, if we get control of the Senate, we'll have a new Senate majority leader because Mitch McConnell has passed his time.
Did this speech of attacking MAGA Republicans work?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I honestly believe I did a commercial about this, a public service announcement, and I put Hillary in her deplorables and Biden in his remarks together, and I look at it and I say, why is it that Democrats hate Americans so much? Hillary thinks we're deplorable, and Joe Biden thinks we're communist or whatever. So they hate. Why do they hate us so much? And I don't understand. I thought the speech, whoever, it won't happen, but whoever came up with the idea, the message, and the lighting, all of them should be fired immediately. I believe that the reason why it was not on the major networks, NBC, CBS, ABC, is they saw the script in advance and said, no, we don't want to go there. The only networks that carried it were MSNBC and CNN. That was it. So the other much larger public media never carried the speech. It was bizarre. He's far from being a unifier, and I don't think that the American people who saw it, which was a small number of people, because of the networks that were on, bought the deal, and I don't think they bought it, and I don't think that it's, if anything, it will hurt Biden because of his demeanor and the vitriol in his language.
Do you think the busing of illegal immigrants into sanctuary cities is working?
Big time. Big time. So Miss Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, said over the weekend, she acknowledged that she was bringing people off the buses in Chicago, but she was immediately sending them out to the Republican suburbs, so she didn't have to deal with them. The interesting thing about this decision by the governor of Texas to send these people north reminded me of the Reverend Wright, who was the minister who Barack Obama spent 20 years with, but couldn't quite remember him or what he said. But in one of his sermons, he said, "The chickens have come home to roost." Well, what Governor Abbott is doing is sending immigrants north, and the chickens are coming to roost in New York, Washington, and in Chicago. And I suspect other cities in the north that are sanctuary cities will get it. I thought it was fascinating that the military, the Defense Department, refused the request of the mayor of Washington for National Guard troops to help with the deployment of dealing with the volume of people coming in.
The mayor of Washington, D.C. said, "You're turning us into a border state." What an what an incredible admission.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And yet they're a sanctuary city, but not in my backyard. I don't want them here. Get them, send them someplace else. I might be a sanctuary city, but I don't want them because, for whatever reason.
One last question. Do you have any idea what's going on with CNN?
They're trying to figure out what they want to be. I mean, they've finally concluded with the departure of John Harwood. They've only got a few left, but I think they would like to feel like they want to be back more towards the middle, but they've been so far left, the momentum to try and the cost to try and move them to the middle would be so punishing. I think they're going to try, but I don't think they're necessarily going to succeed. But they are not happy with their audience. I've done radio shows or television shows that had more audience than CNN. So if you take away the airport terminal television for CNN, take that away, I mean, there's almost nobody there. There's nobody to watch.
And those contracts are being dropped left and right. But I'm trying to figure out in my business mind why a Warner Discovery LLC would buy a network that has no eyeballs and needs a lot of money to fix it with no guarantee they're going to get it back.
I think that's a great question. I mean, as a television entrepreneur that you are, you're questioning the decision-making process of Warner to buy it and think that they could turn it around, and the idea of taking away their headline talent, Brian Stelter and others, John Harwood and who else yet to go. how they rebuild it is going to be the challenge. Now, if they start, and they don't need to have a bunch of success right away, if they can find somebody that is more to the midstream people to take over Brian Stelzer's program, they could begin the process of wooing listeners and begin turning it slowly.
Well, others have said that if former President Trump runs again, CNN is revived.
Yeah, and MSNBC,
Yeah.
both,
Yeah.
and all the networks. They actually need Trump more than the Trump needs them.
Well, there you go. Okay. Good to see you, friend. Thanks for all you do. I don't know how you do it all, but folks, there are many places. You can go to blackandwhites.us. Not only check out that broadcast, but his new one called Dan After Dark. Support his outreach to veterans, songs and stories for soldiers.us. His normal website is danperkins.guru. His other podcast, What's on My Mind podcast. And where can they get the books again, Dan, real quick?
HollisMedia.net.
HollisMedia.net. Okay,
Right.
Check it out. Good to see you, friend. You looking good. You look like you're
Thank
healthy.
you.
Good. God bless you.
That's
Talk to you
right.
soon. Okay.
You bet. Bye.